Yes, good morning. Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on Citizen TV. It's the time when we take a look at the headlines and the issues behind the headlines. A day in hell for Sharon's mother. Yesterday, Mrs. Otieno lived through every mum's nightmare, coming face to face with the man the state accuses of viciously ending the precious life of a 26-year-old daughter. Of course, we're talking about the ongoing murder trial following the killing of Sharon Otieno, the 26-year-old university student whose body was found in a thicket in Homa Bay. On the Standard, Obado starts fight to avoid the hangman. Migori governor will face off with the prosecution battling to fix him on a murder charge that, if successful, could put him on death row or hand him a long jail term. Now, this is a big story today, and of course, quite a lot of pages dedicated to this. On the front page of the Standard, the story continues again in the inside pages, page 6 and 7 of the Standard dedicated to that. On the Daily Nation, it is on the front page and continues on page 2 and 3. And this is a kind of attention this story continues to receive. Quite a number of questions, and one of them is whether or not someone in the position of a county boss should continue serving as governor once charged with a capital offense. We'll discuss that. My panelists this morning, Chris Wamalwa, MP Kiminini. Good morning, sir. Karibu sana. And Antol Yoloch, MP Mathare. But before all that, before we even get to that question I've just asked, do you get the feeling that this time around with this particular case, this particular murder case, that things are really happening and happening really fast? Because previously we've seen murder cases that take very long to even get people in court, the investigations that go on endlessly, year in, year out, and eventually we forget about it. It's not even been a month. The headlines have been consistent on this one, and we're actually seeing a lot more people coming to court, including a very high-profile politician being arraigned on this. Does it give you a sense of hope that this time around something is really happening?
I think first and foremost we should say that this is an extraordinary matter. Extraordinary matter in the sense that it's involving murder of two people. This is Sharon and the unborn. And the matter is very, very painful. And I don't think the DPP or DCI had any other option. We had a lot of outcry. We saw people demonstrating. We've seen the women members of parliament. And somebody of the status of the governor, I think it's a demonstration to show that nobody is above the law. And from the look of things, I don't know the way this thing is turning out. And if at all, indeed, the governor hand is in this, it's actually very, very unfortunate.
Well, that has to be left to the court because this matter is already before court. It's just the manner in which this issue has been handled. It's been quite, you are a lawyer, and you know, even in such cases, it does take time. Even before you get someone to actually take plea on a murder charge, it usually does take time. Right now, we've seen quite a number of people have already been arraigned. At least 2-3 people have been arraigned, including Governor Obado. Police say they're still looking for the hitmen, about 3 of them. They've narrowed down to Nairobi, and they say they could be somewhere within Mathare slums or Kibera slums. But at least we're seeing things moving quite fast this time around. Does it give you hope, or is it just something cosmetic that probably this is just playing to the public gallery?
Usually two things, one of two things will usually happen. Either they will take a deliberately long period of time and the murder is never solved, or on the other hand, they would act in haste and then get the wrong people. I think this was deliberately set out, I think, to the credit of all the agencies involved to ensure that they leave no loose end. I think they took their time to put in Obado, and they wanted to be very sure that there was something that would link. So they went systematically for individuals who thought were openly involved, and then they systematically tried to tie the loose ends. I think I read somewhere that they had 4 different teams working, and this was to leave out the possibility of the high-profile person, in this case Obado, being able to interfere, for example, with the investigation in Migori or in Homa Bay. And so there were 4 different teams, none reporting to the other, and I think that was very impressive. In less than 1 month, I think the DPP the DCI, they seem to think that they have an airtight case. And yes, if, like you're asking, this seems to give hope. I hope that they treat all other murder cases in this respect. Having said that, I think we must still continue to presume Obado innocent until proven guilty. We've seen a lot of social media things flying out left, right, and center, which is understandable. Like my colleague has said, this was really extraordinary. I mean, the amount of rage and the information we get about somebody being kicked even after they died, being stabbed 8 times, is really a sad affair, but we must continue to consider him presumed innocent.
Yes, Governor Obado has spent the night, and this was his, I think, 3rd, 4th night behind bars. Last night he spent the night at the industrial area remand prison. He's back in court today for a bail hearing, and he could possibly be released on bail. But the question is, and this is what we're asking today, because this is the second governor we've seen being arraigned after Sospito Jamong was arraigned in court over corruption-related charges. Now this time round, a sitting governor is arraigned and takes plea on a capital offense. Questions do arise, yes? Should there be a provision that when a governor is arraigned on such an offense, that probably he should step back from his position, probably allow the deputy governor to take over until this matter is handled? Is it a conversation that we should be having? I know it's not in the law. The law does not expressly bar him from continuing on the job, but does it bring up such questions?
I think this is something that maybe should be looked into, because we've seen many public officers, the moment you are in court, you are told to step aside pending the investigation so that you don't interfere. But now the delicate balance here is you look at governor, much that is in the public domain, but he's an elected person. So there's that thin balance. But as far as we are concerned, I think the way it is, as a matter of fact, we've seen even people in his home area demonstrating that he should be released. And again, on the principle of innocent till proven guilty. But this is a matter that is involving a murder case. And the way Sharon and Hanbon died, it is actually very, very horrifying. You know, when you are told somebody was stabbed, 8 times. So you can see the intention was, the objective was actually to eliminate the unborn. So when I try to think about this matter, it is actually very, very, very horrifying, and that's why I say it's very, very unfortunate. But I think as we move on, because as a governor, the president of the county, you expect high threshold as far as matters of integrity is concerned. Maybe on the way forward, we should, as legislators, we should look into the law and see how do we do this delicate balance for future. Because
we even had this instance when President Uhuru Kenyatta had to attend court at the ICC, and even just for the sake of Kenya's sovereignty, it's not proper to have your head of state in the dock in a different country, and he actually took a break from his position, left his deputy as in charge, and went to attend court. Don't you think that it is a similar situation, that watching your governor in the dock, because a murder case could take years, a murder trial could take years. If he's denied bail, for example, today, we're not saying he's guilty. Of course, he's innocent until proven guilty. But this matter where your governor, your county governor, is behind bars today, tomorrow is handcuffed and is in court, taken back behind bars, don't you think that it raises serious issues on whether or not such a person should step aside from his position up until he's cleared of that matter?
Well, you see, the word stepping aside is a term that has been used figuratively, I think, in respect of appointed state officers. And it's a practice that I think you could properly apply it within public service. In this respect, I mean non-elective persons. The operative provision of the law in respect of elected office, and I think this includes the governors, is Article 99 of the Constitution. And Article 99 indicates circumstances in which you can vacate office: when there is an election petition, when you have grossly violated the Constitution, bankruptcy and when you have been convicted. The operative word here is the word convicted of a criminal offense. And then it goes on to say that even then, you would have exhausted all your rights and avenues of appeal. What that seems to suggest then is that Governor Obado will probably not be required, at least by law, to step aside until he is, one, convicted, two, he has avenues to appeal to the High Courts, the Court of Appeal, and if need be, if he wants to the Supreme Court.
Yes, the law is clear as it is.
Yes, so that is the law.
Yes.
But on the moral plane, there is a moral plane and then there is practice. And remember when Uhuru Kenyatta was being tried at The Hague, he didn't actually resign. There are two things that happened. And I was among the people, spirited public litigationists then, who went to court and said, look, this person and the deputy are not fit to be president. And there were precedents of the High Court, and it went to the Court of Appeal, and they said there is nothing to stop the two of them from vying for president. And then the second circumstance, when they became president, the only time they stepped aside was the period, 1 or 2 months, when he was at The Hague.
Yes.
He never literally said, I've stopped being president. The same circumstances, he still hands over to the deputy president when he goes for a foreign trip. It was the same thing. It's provided in law. When he has to be away for a certain period of time, it's required that he hands over to the president.
Is it the same that should happen at the county level, that now that he's on this matter, he's behind bars, so to speak, he's expected back in court today, that he should officially hand over to his deputy as he handles this other matter?
I won't say officially because the law does not provide for it, but because the county must operate. I think good sense and good public order requires that Governor Obado sees it fit that the county should not be caught up or held up because he has to appear in court every other day. And you know, criminal trials, the way they go, they're like corruption cases. If you begin hearings, you'll probably be away for a week, 2, or even more. And things like those are going to drag the county government of Migori. From what I can hear now, literally nothing goes on. And even the county government officials, I'm told, they are so anxious and apprehensive that they report to work and then go and gather around newspaper
because no one knows what will happen.
They don't know what will happen. It is as if their life depends on it, which should not be the case.
Don't you think that there should be legislation to that effect, that such cases, of course this is the first time we're experiencing this, that a sitting governor is charged with a capital offense and actually takes plea, is sent to the remand prison awaiting as the trial goes on. Don't you think that this actually raises an issue that requires proper legislation?
Absolutely. You know, when it comes to matters of the law, until then you have that empirical experience is when you realize that there's a gap. Just the same way we've had issues of the deputy governors taking over without necessarily going for elections, like what happened in Nyeri when the governor died. You know, when this incident happened is when you realize that there's a loophole in the law. That's why now it calls for legislation. So now coming to this case, of course, maybe the framers of this constitution, they did not anticipate that. But now that we've experienced, we've seen where the loophole is, I think it's the highest time a legislation to be put in place. Not necessarily from the Senate, much that it's a core business of the Senate to do that, but it can also start from the National Assembly, so that a legislative process can start to be able to seal the loophole for future and for prosperity.
Because this is the same issue that even governors came up with, and when they were asking to be to get immunity from prosecution, because probably they foresaw that yes, it does present some challenges when you're prosecuted as a county boss and you have to attend court, probably stay in remand for some time, that it actually causes problems at the county level. They've seen that issue. Don't you think that that discussion should be alive at this time?
Yes, of course, that discussion is something that needs to be alive. There are obviously gaps that need to be filled in this respect. You remember there were even gaps in respect of what happens about ascendancy of the deputy governor. There are obviously gaps, and I think there were bills that came up to the Senate, and it is high time we began to look at this thing. I don't know if we would go to the extent of extending the same immunity we give to the president. But we need to have some discussion, especially on a criminal matter like this. Imagine that, all facts is held constant, is presumption being guaranteed. Imagine that the family of Sharon would have to wait until the governor were to do his term, assuming that immunity or period was there. The period of grief, the sense of the injustice being solved, being postponed, I think it makes sense for the head of state, because even when we extend it for the head of state, we don't say that he'll never be prosecuted, and there is a reason for that. I think him being the symbol of national unity, and the country must not be kept in that side of kind of anxiety when he's going through those processes. But I think the discussion we need to have is the discussion as to whether he should temporarily hand over the instruments of power and let the deputy act for a period of time. I would not go to the extent of extending an immunity to him to that extent. Yeah.
And that's the question we're asking today on Daybreak. Should a county governor be forced to hand over to his deputy in case of such an issue like the one facing Migori Governor Obado, who has been charged with a capital offense and took plea yesterday? Should such a governor be forced by law to hand over to his deputy for the period until he manages to clear himself? Then he can take a seat back. Send your comments on Twitter at Citizen TV Kenya. That's the Twitter handle. Use the hashtag Daybreak. And that is definitely one of the biggest discussions. I can see another one, similar. Abducted woman was not pregnant, detectives claim. This is a different case. It's also highlighted on the front page of the Daily Nation. Mombasa criminal investigations boss